Hi everybody, I am on a slightly different computer and using a slightly different mic. Hopefully that doesn't reduce our sound quality, but I wanted to do a quick little example today. So this would be a hypothesis test for a mean. You can tell by the hypotheses that are already written. However, if you had been just given this raw data right here, hopefully you'd quickly notice that that's a sample mean and that I know the population standard deviation, so that tells me this is going to be a Z. Just to keep us all straight as to which one we're going to be using. You'll notice that I'm using Minitab 18. If you have a Mac, maybe watch one of the Mac videos to follow along so you can do what we're up to. So we're going to state our decision rule to determine whether or not we should reject or accept fail to reject the null hypothesis based on critical values in this video. So this will be a critical value method example. All right, so first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to calculate the value of the test statistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make Minitab run this test for me, and then from there, hopefully, we'll get everything we need. Well, you don't get everything you need. You don't get the critical value for it, so we're just going to have to start out with the first part there. So to make Minitab do the test statistic for you, we're going to go to Stat, Basic Statistics, down to a one sample Z. All right, and this defaults to one or more sample in each columns. We do not have that because we have summarized data. My sample size is 47. My sample mean, where's my sample mean? 106. My known standard deviation, so notice it says known because it's talking about the population one. You wouldn't get this option if it was the t-test. And then it says perform a hypothesis test. Yes, we want to, and we're comparing this to 114. And then we're going to check our options. So let's see. Remember, when you're doing a hypothesis test and not a confidence interval, I don't care about the percentage up here. I just care about the not equal to right there because I'm doing a hypothesis test. This is set correctly because it's also a not equal to. Remember, you can change this if you're doing a greater than or a less than. Let's hit OK and OK again. And there is the value of my test statistic. All right. My Z is... Oh, I need my critical value before I can decide this. I'm sorry. I thought this was a different question. Anyway, so my Z value is negative 2.11, so I'm going to need the critical values that go with this. So again, I know I'm doing a Z because it's a known standard deviation. So now I'm going to make Minitab produce my critical values for me. So since my alpha is 10%, I'm going to split that between my two tails. So I'm going to go up to stat, not stat, sorry, graph, probability distribution plot, view probability. You'll notice I'm staying on the standard normal distribution because that's where you get critical values from. Good times. So mean 0, standard deviation 1. I'm going to click over to shaded area, and I do want to throw in a probability. My alpha is 10%, so I want to throw that in there. And I do want it to split it between both tails, so I'm going to select both tails. This should produce my critical value. Alrighty. Oop, sorry, I don't want to make that too small to where we can't see it. So my critical value, I'm going to use the negative tail to compare to this because they're both negative. So in particular, my critical value is negative 1.645. The critical values, negative 1.645. Oh, it wants me to do two decimal places, so we'll do 6.5 and 1.65 because that's my 2. And reject. So I'm going to be rejecting if the calculated values of the test statistic Z is not contained within the critical values. So remember, we reject if we fall in the rejection reason, so it's got to be out here or out here. So in particular, since I'm going to be looking at Z and these are my critical values, I will reject. Yay! Okay. So, reject if it's not contained between the two. Oh, what's your test statistic? Now I need this. I did it too early. Whoops-a-daisy. And I want two places, so there's my test statistic. Good job. All right, now here's where we come down to the decision. So my test statistic is in the rejection region, so that's going to help me make my decision. So because my test statistic does not fall within the critical values because it's outside in one of the edges, it's over here, I am going to reject the null hypothesis. So I'm rejecting HO and going with HA. So that means I conclude that my population mean is not equal to 114. I should be done after this. Oh, I'm good at stuff. Okay, so I hope this video helps you look at a more MyStatLabby-like example. I'm going to do a couple more of these this week. So this specifically one was a critical value using a Z. I hope this helped.